Hello, everyone. Welcome to Untold Stories in Tech Hiring. My name's Phil. I'm VP of Product at OfferZen, and I'm going to be hosting today. We're very excited to get started and can't wait. Oh, I'm seeing some thumbs up already. Awesome stuff. But I got to make sure that things run smoothly first. So we'll do the house rules for the webinar first of all. So, first thing, we love to hear where you're joining us from this evening or afternoon or morning or wherever it is or whatever it is, wherever you are. So do feel free to type in the chat, introduce yourself. It's great to know who's here. The rules of engagement. Let's see. The first thing that's important is you can see us, but we can't see you. So that's one of the reasons, I guess, why I want you to type in the chat. That's what's going on with the video. The webinar, if you drop off the video, you can just come right back on using the same Livestorm link that you used to get here in the first place. So that's pretty straightforward. Questions? Oh, we've got some introductions coming in already. Excellent. Questions, you can post your questions anytime you like in the questions tab. So you found the chat tab. I can see some of you have. The questions tab is right next to it. And what we'll do is we'll take the questions at the end of the event and we'll leave plenty of time for that. So we should be able to get stuck into some of your deep and meaningfuls. Okay, I'm just getting an interesting message about muting notifications. I'm good. Finally, you can use the chat tab to share interesting links and thoughts and whatever's kind of crossing your mind, and that's always a laugh too. So you're introducing yourself in the chat, and that's fantastic. Just put your name, but also can you put maybe your company and your location because it's really interesting to see where people are coming in from. And if you feel like, wow, I'm really getting on with these people in this chat, they're like, these are my soulmates or whatever, then you can drop a link to your LinkedIn in the chat, right? If you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit further and maybe enable people to contact you, then we recommend using your LinkedIn as a nice way to do that, because then you're not sort of, posting your phone number or whatever, but that's an option. So there you go. What am I seeing? I'm seeing Copenhagen, I just saw. That's exciting. I'm seeing Amsterdam. I'm seeing Cape Town. Lots of Amsterdam. Vienna at the moment, pretty nice. Rotterdam. Lots of Amsterdam, lots of Cape Town, which is not surprising since those are two places where OfferZen has offices. That's fantastic. So that's cool. But also exciting to see people from other corners of the world as well. That's just what we like. Okay, we have got an icebreaker poll sitting under the poll tab. So if you look down by the chat tab, there's also a poll tab. So just for a bit of fun, have a go at the poll and we'll see what we get. Okay, I've got to answer the poll too. Oh. If only. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to answer truthfully, right? It's tempting. Okay. Excellent. Oh, the results are coming in. There's 53% of people tell the truth, or maybe actually some people are on their couch, and then 9% of people are in space. I actually am in space as well. You can sort of see there's a sort of strange outer space nature to my world. So I just thought I'd type in some nonsense. But that's quite. Oh, 2% of people are in the bath now. Excellent, excellent. Good. I hope you're in the bath maybe with a glass of wine, maybe some candles. It could be quite nice. Awesome. All right, I'm going to let that run for a second before we move on to the next step. What am I seeing? 62 people. Nice. Cool stuff. This is exciting. Look at you all. Great. Okay, so OfferZen. Let me introduce you to OfferZen for those who don't know who we are yet. What are we all about? Well, OfferZen gives fast-growing companies, which are the places where many of you here tonight work. We give those companies a competitive edge in the developer job market by giving you access to um, developers who are ready to interview and who are selected or curated, as we like to say. And then those developers get smartly matched to your open positions or your open jobs. And we also offer you risk-free hiring, because on OfferZen, you only pay when you're successful and you hire the next developer in your team. So we think that's a pretty awesome value proposition, right? Because right now, finding great developers is by no means easy. And finding a collection, a hotspot of good developers curated who are ready to start interviewing is a wonderful thing. Okay, so how do we do it? How do we make it happen? Um, we're very much here to help recruiters and hiring managers and hiring teams to source the right candidates. Right, sourcing is difficult, and we try to bring a great selection of candidates and to make that sourcing process easy with a good search engine and a nice process for kind of getting in contact, I suppose, with the candidates. We're very much about speed, right? So hiring, when you got to hire, right? Especially in the tech business, and achieving a faster time to hire is very much what we're about. So typically on OfferZen, the average time from first interview, first initial outreach to a signed offer is 25 days, which is pretty nice and fast. It's unlikely you can go much faster than that. And we've got a 99% candidate response rate. So if you reach out to a candidate, they are almost always, except in some odd circumstances, going to come right back to you, which is just what you need if you're trying to do some tech hiring. And then the last thing is hiring decisions. We've got account managers who are very experienced in tech hiring, and they're really they're there to help, right? They're there to help you improve your hiring process, or think about how you're interviewing, and to bring you feedback from the candidates and from the marketplace about how your company is being perceived, and what you could do to be more successful and to make really great hiring impact, if you like. So there we go, sourcing the right candidate, faster time to interview and hiring, and informed hiring decisions with help from the talent advisors. So hopefully you like the sound of that. Let's talk about the kind of stats. I guess what's important is accessing quality developers is really key, isn't it? So instead of you as a hiring manager getting a whole bunch of CVs coming in which are not really relevant to you and so on, you get to reach out to the developers and decide who you want to talk to. Yeah, so that really changes the game there. Your account manager, as I've said, is there to help you, and there's about 100 new candidates added to the platform every Monday. So that means every Monday there's fresh talent waiting for you to take a look at, which is pretty exciting. So if you are interested in building your tech team, well, we're here to help you make it happen. You can click the link in the chat and book a call with us, and we can talk you through it, give you a demo, let you try it out, get you set up, all those good things if you want to find out more. All right. Hope that was useful. The chat link has happened. Fantastic. All right. So Untold Stories. Let's talk about that. What's this Untold Stories thing, right? So we're big into community at OfferZen. We've seen time and time again the power of community. It's actually quite amazing to behold, right? And so creating a community for hiring professionals to help them level up in their careers, as well as helping developers or helping development engineering managers and so on by building community that helps them share knowledge is really very much dear to our heart. So Untold Stories is our way of gathering the tech hiring community together um, uh, and helping to share the knowledge to help you tackle the problems. Right. So, tonight's edition of Untold Stories, we're diving into a topic which lots of companies do struggle with, which is developer retention. So, here's some stats, which I think are a good way to start. Yeah, on average, developers are changing jobs every 2 years. But there are, however, some that do stay longer. And our speaker tonight has stayed in his job for more than 6 years. I think it might even be 7, in fact. So with our speaker tonight, we're going to explore a little bit about how having a better developer experience can lead to higher retention rates and why it's important to reframe the notion of developer retention. So we're going to talk about connecting customer pain points to individual engineering outputs, which makes meaningful and fulfilling work. We're going to talk about psychological safety, and we're going to talk about Mobiquity's proactive approach to structured and unstructured growth for their engineers so that everybody can grow in their own way. As I said, I'm Phil Barrett. I'm VP of Product at OfferZen. I'm going to be your host, but much more important, let us welcome the speaker of the day, which is Jieke Pan, who is VP of Engineering and CTO at Mobiquity EMEA and APAC. Here's Jieke.
Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Depends on time zone. Hi, Philip. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you? I thought you weren't going to appear for a second. I was like, here's Jieke, where is he? And there he was. So it was okay.
There's an internet, and then there's a delay of internet.
It's true. It's true. We take it for granted. Okay, thanks for joining us, Jieke, to talk about developer retention.
Thank you.
Before we get stuck in, I'd love you to just tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Very short, brief introduction about myself. My name is Jieke Pan. That's my full name. Born and raised in China. Lived in Portugal for 10 years, and I'm Portuguese citizen. Also speak natively Portuguese and Mandarin. And been in Netherlands for oh, how many? 14 now. But don't try to test my Dutch. It's still at the basic level. Yeah, being working in different companies, came across different industries as a product company into a service company like where Mobility is, or being Mobility for this year, it's gonna be 7 years. Yeah.
Very cool. So we can't test your Dutch, but somebody seems to be testing your, I think it's can't be your Mandarin, so it must be your Portuguese. So they'll probably be asking you questions in Portuguese later.
Sure thing.
Cool. All right. There's lots of we've prepared some interesting questions, and then I think the audience will have a few surprise ones for us later, which will be fun. The very first one, though, to get us started is on your social media profiles. We often see you using hashtag always be kind. So we'd love you to tell us what that's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting starting point. It's a bit my personal motto. It's been carrying on for many years already. And somehow it's became also motto of Mobility Europe office. That's a lot of people know that I repetitively talking about being kind with each other and being kind, being mindful what you do. But what in nutshell, what kindness means in this context, or at least in my own personal interpretation, it's beyond being friendly. It is about empathy and trust. It's about how mindful you are in certain circumstances, how mindful you interact with other people, how mindful you treat your job, and that's in a nutshell what kindness means in this context.
Wow. Empathy and respect were two words you used there. And those are quite tricky words, actually. do you want to do a little bit more to define what those mean? What is empathy?
Well, if you look from, for instance, from leadership profile perspective, or leaders' perspective, empathy consists of, first of all, creating a safe psychological environment for your team members and your employees or the people who you lead. And the safe environment does not necessarily only mean where they feel psychologically safe, but it's the place where they, beyond feeling home, you feel they are feeling accomplishing. It's their career, life objectives, friendship, and all kinds of aspects. And as a leader, you must be able to enable them. And we hear a lot of people talking about being leader must be being vulnerable. That's totally true. Being vulnerable is not about just kind of show your vulnerability. It's really you don't talk top down to your team members in the way that as if you are their official manager, but it's a peer person who is trying to help to grow their career and solving the problem whenever they need your help for. That's the definition, the baseline of the empathy. And on top of that is about enabling, in giving them enough encouragement, and also in situations where they commit a failure, they don't feel judged, right? And if certain situations happen, be there, be the hand to help them, and encourage them to go through the stage so they can learn from the failure, learn from the experience, and doing better job as for their career development.
Wow. Empathy. Uh, what I'm getting there is that you're getting inside. You're I guess remembering because you've been there. You're remembering what it's like to be a developer, um, learning and growing and writing code and surviving in an organization. It looks to me like you're sort of keeping that memory in your head every day, right? Because now as a leader and as a manager, maybe your experience of the organization is different, but it seems to be like trying to remember this is what it's like to be a developer writing code.
Yes, yes,
um,
definitely.
and then so some of the things that you raised there, you raised a beautiful collection. So a safe environment, and you talked about psychological safety. um, so so um, the creating psychological safety is the tricky part, actually, isn't it? Right? People say, "Hey, psychologically safe teams, fantastic, they're productive," but I've definitely seen quite a lot of people struggle to create psychological safety, um, and I think you have maybe a gift for it, actually. But can you put into words any of your tactics for how you do it, or any of the ways, the methods that you use to create it?
Yeah, certainly. First of all, we don't call in my context and within my responsibility, we don't call our team members developer. We call them engineers. Their responsibility covers beyond just writing code. Their responsibility covers to how to enable and to bring the right solution to solve the right problem for our customers. And why is that so important? Because that emphasis every single person's position in a either large or small digital program delivery, their importance of this, their individual role play within the impact of the overall outcome that we deliver to the customer. In order to do so is getting them involved at the early stage. So people don't feel that whenever the execution cycle started, so bunch of developers gets together and then they get assigned a task to do the job that they're being asked to do. In the other way around, what we manage is getting engineers to involved, participating at the early stage as possible of a large digital or small programs kickoff moment. Why is that so crucial? Because then they get, if possible, in contact with stakeholders. Sometimes people are further away, at Mobiquity context, we have people, we have customers in all around the world, and due to COVID, they couldn't travel, right? So, but it's nevertheless, it's very important to get them engaged at the early stage where we are still designing or helping customer together to figuring out what's their business frictions, user journey problems, user experience problems, or any other business issues that they wanted us to solve. Although you might argue that it's quite costly to get the whole engineering team there, but the key roles needs to be there in order to understand what's their mission to deliver the work afterwards, right? So at the early stage, you know what's the purpose of your work. And from there onwards, it needs to have a thorough and a well-structured way of working to take the people through the journey, through the experience, as if they are running together a business like a startup, right? Why the startups is so encouraging to the people? Because first, the scope is small. Second, everyone is involved. If you, as outsider looking at, it might be a little bit chaotic, but the people who are participating day to day, yeah, that's the truth, right? But people are participating day to day, they feel highly engaged because they have the mission and the purpose to drive. And how to do that is a lot of companies practice agile, right? Taking example, well, the famous ones is implementation of safe agile methodology and whatever, so on. But let's use the most common way, Scrum. And you have a project which runs, well, a sprint size of 2 weeks time, right? And you kick off with refinement, then planning, and etc., etc. Now, each user story, you must make sure there's a meaningful outcome that your engineers understand what they are writing to, what they are creating for. That's typically a major problem we notice in a lot of companies that, or even within our customers, right? That there's not too much care or attention paid in order to create such engagement so that the people feel what's their purpose of doing their job, right? And that's down into the level of how you write user stories. Maybe I'm getting into too much technical, but user story represents a certain feature or functionality or a piece of a overall customer journey you're going to accomplish, right? Let's say someone is doing online shopping. A user story could be someone is choosing different articles from a catalog, which will add to their carts, right? And the user story needs to be well written in the purpose that allows the people seamlessly to have a online shopping experience instead of ordering or adding article 1 2 3 and the card should be have 1 2 3 to be verified. So I think all the detail matters. That's the most important thing, and it's independent of the role you are performing, and it requires the overall team effort to care about the purposes where they are working on. So it reflects into engineering, reflects into product management, reflects into designers, and any other roles which is participating in a program delivery. So that's number one. And as you can tell, it has not directly related to a safe environment, right? I'm not talking about putting a bunch of bodyguards around you so you feel safe. Maybe you don't. Sorry, a bad example. But it's a psychological environment where you feel fulfilled, engaged, and you know the value you are delivering. I know it's hard. Sometimes work is work and you have to get certain tasks done. And that comes to the second topic is a proper expectation management, right? Sometimes if the reality is the way it is, you're better to tell the truth, right? Instead of sugarcoating the situation where people has in their mind a different expectation towards a reality, right? So perception, that's translating into also what we so-called transparency. And often that happens when people get into the leadership level, they felt like, oh, I need to kind of hide this and that so that I can communicate this way so the team is engaged. No, they will be disengaged, I can tell you. They don't know the purpose. They don't know where you want them to be. You just give them the orders instead of showing them the roadmap. So being the leader is very important. Keep in mind transparent communication. But
Mm.
transparency is not like being blunt, like here's the secret, here you are, and please check by yourself. No. If you are able to tell certain truth, be honest with it. If you have a mandate to share certain news, do it and do it in detail. But if you can't, also let your team know you can't, right? It's not in your order to share. At least people know, okay, great, right? Chapter closed.
Mm.
If you don't have certain things to share, if you don't know or have information about a certain topic, then you better to also tell your team member you don't have the information. Instead of fake it or give a very vague answer, then people start creating all kinds of nuance and the fake
Mm.
expectations, right? So when it comes to transparency, I think what I described, everyone can achieve, no matter which level of leadership you stand for, right? It's how you communicate as a decent human being, down to the ground, right? That's the base rule. And what we're talking about, safe environment, that's the way, that's the starting point to let you pave the way to create the trust towards your team members. A lot of
Wow.
companies call their team member as a resource, right? Terminology matters. We are
Hmm.
human beings. We are not objects. So stop calling people resource.
Yeah, no,
Oh, we have a
that's a dangerous one.
resourcing problem. What does it mean? You go to the warehouse and see how many stack of people there? Doesn't make sense, right? But reality, we forgot those details. That detail, those details matters to the individual level. People feel are they well treated or not? Not about just of their paycheck, not about how many vacation days they got. It's about the day-to-day feeling, how engaged they feel within the company, and how you treat them in small details. It really matters, and especially when it comes to the strong leadership of the middle layer leadership. It's not about the executive level. It's not about the management team, but the middle layer is very, very important one. When we are talking about middle layer, who are they? Competence leaders, or some company called team leaders or chapter leaders. You talk to people, talk to individuals directly. And though that layer needs to be really, really well structured and a well established principle, have right and unique way of communicating, executing, so that you can implement what is so-called company culture. Because those are the leaders who are taking care of the each individual level. But when company grow, we often have this laziness of forgetting to continuously checking, validating if we are keeping up this layer of the people up to date to their skill to be a decent leader. Nobody
Mm.
was born as a good leader. Nobody, right? And leadership is a skill you can learn and must be coached. So a company is a combination of training and also learning on the job.
There's a lot in there. I hope that people were taking notes. I heard psychological safety. I heard clear purpose so that developers can see their purpose and the impact of their work. I heard transparent communication, and I think respect was back in there as well. And you're right that these are that staying human when faced with the pressures of business is a real skill for managers. That's absolutely. So the next question I've got is um, a little bit about you. No, it's not. It's about oh, yes, it is. What made you commit to staying at Mobiquity for as long as you have, right? Because you're an engineer and you've actually stayed at that organization for nearly 7 years so far, and I think it's going to be longer. So, what made you commit to staying there so long?
Yeah, great question. I think this November is going to be 7 years within Mobiquity, and I joined in a very crucial moment, so to speak. We were at the early stage of growth and expansion in terms of team size, headcounts, and also business size and the business domains. It was a very exciting time when I joined, and until today, the excitement just keep going and gets into a different level. I joined as an engineer and later on got asked to take as a part of one of the competence leads of one competence team, in that case, backend, together with other colleagues of mine. Since day one, I joined Mobiquity. I've never been told to do not do something without any reason, which means that as long as my action plan is meant for good reason, that is helping business to grow, helping individuals to develop their career, get engaged, increase their skill, increase our delivery quality, and furthermore, also helping to build up a company culture towards a direction we all wish to move forward. Nobody would stop by saying, "Hey, Yika, what are you doing? Really annoyed me, and please stop." Right. Second thing is it's really being fortunate that I'll be always surrounded by top talent people. And my definition of top talent does not necessarily come with their hard skills. When I say hard skill in terms of their skill or experience of their domain knowledge, what I'm talking about is really I'm being surrounded by a great group of great people who share the common understanding of what is our mission and what is being kind to each other, what is all kinds of topics we just touch up on until now, since the beginning of this chat. We share very similar value to each other, although we all coming from different countries. Currently, Mobility Europe it consists of 50, 51 or 52, 50 plus nationalities, and I'm
Wow.
just one of them. We all share the common goal, and most importantly, the level of the respect is really, really high. No, not because I'm speaking up now. I'm in the role of CTO so that people respect me. Since day one when I joined as an engineer, that's equally the same feeling I've been carry on. Obviously, on from my side, I would like to transmit this value to others as well. So that's what we've been doing. And on top of that, people are super, super talented of what they do, of their business domain, their expertise, being the subject matter experts. It's beyond just being the engineering group. I'm talking about the overall Mobility Europe. And the sense of feeling I've been getting is over the last 6 years, I've been keep learning from others. And these coming from independent of the level where they stand. It's not about, oh, I couldn't learn from the junior engineers, which you do from different aspects, right? They come from different generation, different country, different experiences they had. And sometimes the challenge they put towards you is a learning curve that you have to take. More senior we become, sometimes our vision is become more narrowed, right? And we
Mm.
have to admit that point as well. So for me, the sense of feeling is really the continuous learning, and this learning doesn't necessarily come to only technology, because technology really comes at the last as the factor of driving my motivation to stay. Because let me tell you something: what is cool today as technology is lame tomorrow, right? Because it's
Whereas,
become so easily outdated. Lame maybe is bad definition, but just speaking in a informal way. Um, you
hmm,
know, if you check, you are in recruitment business, you know how often programming language changes, right? JavaScript changes every 6 months. What is cool? Tell me. And what is modernized, right? Modernized is now what you are working on, right? The value you deliver and using the right technology to deliver certain solutions, which the what is really cool is seeing the happy face of your customers, seeing a very engaging team working together, deliver certain solutions, right? And those are the invisible, what I call non-functional aspects of which contribute to my motivation. A lot of colleagues know me well. Uh, just very recently, I stopped my very frequent activity of participating in the project delivery. But that's also a place I say I must say that I feel a little bit missing because working with the team really brings me a extra level of motivation day to day. But that's okay
Mm.
because I have to divide my attention to other areas as well.
But I really like, I love the non-functional. This is very cool, right? The things that get you out of bed in the morning and keep you engaged and coming back are the non-functional, as you put it, things, right? Of like, do I love my team? Are we doing great work? Are we making a difference? Are we having an impact? Can I see that impact? Um, that's that's just as cool as am I using the latest JavaScript framework or whatever it is. So that's very cool. I love
Yeah,
that.
don't take me wrong. Probably after this call, everyone starts shooting me on the on the message about boo you don't know what's the latest programming language. I mean, well, so the another aspect I think what keep people engaging is a what we call continuous review cycle. Review maybe is bad word. It's end of day. Sorry, my brain starts like drill down the batteries, but um, it's a feedback cycle, right? If the feedback applies into your peers expressing their feedback about you. It could be appreciation, could be improvements, but in a granularly small time frame, frequent time frame, but in small quantities, so that you can digest message easily. What I call that is a lot of company implement like yearly or if I may half year. That's quite common, right? A lot of company has this performance review, and
Mm,
worst part is those are even highly attached to yearly salary adjustment promotions, blah blah blah, right? And this becomes a almost a not engaging anymore a moment to evaluate someone, right? But the point
mm,
is, who gives you the mandate to evaluate others? They are your peers. The only thing you can do is giving feedback. Either it's appreciation or an improvement remark,
mm,
right? And as long as you make it as constructive as possible, your peer would listen. Who are your peers? It could be engineers who work with the engineer, could be product manager with the engineer, could be product manager with the designer, could be even delivery manager or directors with each individual within the team. But the key message here is never wait until another year, then bring the feedback saying, last summer, dude, I didn't find that your job do well in certain tasks. God knows what happened last summer. I even couldn't remember what happened last month, right? Even I don't record it. That's the point. The point is you must have a well-structured, systematic way to do so, right? And maybe we are in the middle of the chat now. I look at the time. I also wanted to make sure the audience understand. Mobiquity Europe is in a evolving stage. Does not mean everything we do is right. Okay, and don't take my comments as a silver bullet for your company. This serves as a guideline references as my personal experience which I live within my day to day. But the point is, we are keeping ourselves evolving to that direction.
mm,
There are things we make mistakes, things we need to adjust, fix. There are things that happens out of your control, right? For the obvious reasons, these recent incidents, Um, but within your control, as long as we can improve them, we do. And pay
mm,
close attention to the action you do and continuously measure them. So it comes to different levels, right? Between individuals, you provide feedback. What we encourage people to do it on a quarterly basis. Daily may be too tiring. But within the project delivery, some of the teams, I don't know if people are in the call, but certain colleagues can definitely tell, we also implement what is called the feedback sessions. That is within one Scrum size team, like 9 to 12 people. And after one sprint delivery, they will sit with each other within an hour and writing down appreciation topic items and also improvement items for each of the team members. They work within the project. In that sprint, what happened, right? We encourage, and then in a one-on-one mode of 2 minutes session, they will hand over these sticky notes to the others and explain the context and giving them proper perspective, what they expecting things to change to improve or what they really appreciate and they want a person to maintain. We encourage people to do pair programming. That's not necessarily mean all the projects we demand the pair programming, but you've seen that all the teams, right at the beginning when nobody knows each other, right? Team formation
Mm.
takes time until to a certain level that everyone is working as a team. But our mission is always to shorten that time. The way to do so is
Mm.
getting everyone talking to each other, not just by talking, but while executing your job day to day, you are interacting with others, right? You've seen certainly, wow, there's a, if you search on Google, there's a lot of memes and comics about the fight over the Git pull request, right? People don't agree with your code syntax. Another one says, yeah, but you should write things that way. And the one pull request, which is supposed to be closed in 1 or 2 minutes if there's no issue, becomes a war of discussion for multiple
Mm.
days, right? For no reason. And sometimes you realize the one you are exchanging pull request comments just
Mm.
sitting right after you, right? And then the
Yes.
people say, why don't they talk to each other? It's not about pushing people to talk to you. You need to have a mechanism naturally to enable. So pair programming is just one way to do things, right? Getting people pair with each other, they exchange ideas, enables them to establish, back again to the topic, safe
Mm.
environment. They
So,
feel trusted and respected.
so there's some very good stuff here. I do want to just point out, do pop your questions in the chat. We've just said that we can move to audience questions soon. So questions in the chat, do it, people. But you're getting at, Jieke, you are getting at some really some issues or some techniques that a lot of people find difficult to execute, actually. And I love the story you're telling. I think it's really great. um, and I think you've given a really useful insight, which is, if you take feedback and you separate it from the work, you say, oh yes, 6 months ago you did this, or in this abstract meeting where we're talking about the team charter, then do that. It's much less effective than if people are giving their colleagues feedback about the work, um, uh, as in almost, I'm not going to say real time, but frequently, very frequently,
Yes.
yeah, and very honestly.
Yeah.
And how do you make that start, right? It's like, it's the first time you're going to do a speedback session or whatever, right? And there's a bunch of developers sitting around who are like, oh, this is awkward.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do it, right? How do you make it go? What's the trick?
Yeah. I think you cannot enforce it. Um, you inevitable in a company inevitably in a company you would have introvert people, extrovert people. Some people can easily speak up and others less, and they even feel more intimidated if someone just walk by saying, here you go, that's your three sticky notes about your improvement. The people get shocked, right? So in order to do so, what the experience we have gone through is between leader and their team members, you often have this one-on-one conversation, right? And that
Mm,
one-on-one conversation must be driven effectively as a starting point, because you will meet them more often than other peers met them for these type of sessions, right? For these type of purposes. So encourage them. The leaders need to be also encouraged, but most important, encouraging the team members. When you have a one-on-one with the team member, they must start feeling comfortable first, because you are the
Mm.
leader who interact with them more often, right? Because projects structure and team setup changes, and people may not work in the one in our industry, right? In context of Mobiquity, we are not a product company, we're a service company. So people often change projects 6 months or 3 months, depends project life cycle. You may work with colleagues you never met yet, right? So that's always to have this awkward moment. And but leaders is the one who establish one-on-one relationship more often or in a more fixed manner, right? And that's the
Mm.
first thing is you really do need to encourage people and that they feel comfortable having chat with you. Huh? And don't implement this feedback right away um, in when at the first sprint of the execution of project teams, right? And you must let the team to start feeling comfortable to each other, but by through following the normal practices of what Scrum meant for you. For instance, during the retrospective, right? And try to change the format in the way that don't say what went well, what went wrong, what needs to be improved.
Mm-hmm.
Change into a first person mode in the sense of start writing what went wrong, but people should start the sentence of I really liked, right? I really loved. It was amazing that. So because things happened positively, you do need to express in a positive way. Now, things didn't happen so well. Don't make it too negative, right? So you could start it as, well, I wonder, right, why this
Mm.
didn't happen. It was pity that we didn't achieve that, etc. Right? So that you make really comfortable setup. It's not that hard to set, right? I'm not introducing something which is ultimately you need a toolings or license or trainer to train you for a month. I'm just saying be a decent communicator and think in the feet of others, right? In the shoes of
Yeah.
others, so that address the message nicely.
Mm.
Then naturally you start building up a trust environment within your team. Second thing is celebrate more. And at the moment of celebration, it's not about customer paid off, yay, let's go for drinks. Is tiny feature is got finished, even day to day. Do a micro celebration and let the people who accomplish that task or user story to be proudly demo their work.
Mm.
I've seen a lot of
Definitely.
companies and customers is the demo is even not done by engineering team,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
Or
that's a
not
shame,
by
really.
even product manager, it's done by someone, right? So if, of course it depends on occasion, depends the culture
Mm.
of the customer, how they perceive. But nothing prevents you to do such a small celebration moments within your
Mm.
team. Nobody's going to prevent you to do that. And it's not like, oh, let's go out for lunch for the whole afternoon. It's about really tiny celebrations, right? And instead of waiting for a milestone being achieved, you celebrate the small steps and let those contributors to celebrate,
Mm.
right? At Mobiquity, we have every Friday stand up. We call it the company stand up. I'm the moderator, and basically, what we do, we introduce new journals. We ask people to speak up if they need help. We will have a
Mm.
section. One of my colleagues will bring a philosophical text or piece that he read from a certain book to
Mm.
share the ideas with the people. project achievements, right? And that's not necessarily project needs to be delivered. There are teams celebrating at a key moment that certain things got achieved. Appreciation. So if you want to bring thank you message to a team or to individuals, right? And also our president, managing director, Paul would give short update over that week what happened on management level and the company level. And then we have a monthly company meeting which we host at end of the month that everybody joins, and there will be a lengthier session. But every Friday we have this 15 to 30 minutes stand up. Everyone joins remotely or in office, and then we celebrate these such a small achievements together,
Nice.
and also get to know the new
Yeah.
joiners. They get introduced to themselves, and yeah.
So we're getting close to running out of time,
Wow, sorry.
and no, not at all. We have got some gems. I don't know if you've been seeing how many hearts and celebrations and thumbs up have been flying past, but I think there's definitely people appreciating the information. It's been really great. So in terms of audience questions, there was one which is an audience question that fits nicely with what I was going to ask you anyway, which was about books. I think that you have a habit of giving people books. And one of the audience members, Robin, actually asked if you've got any books you would recommend. I think that's great. So which books have you given to people as gifts, leaders at your company? And are there any books you're planning to give them next, I guess?
Well, over the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, I think more or less that's my statistics on the Amazon.com. I purchased a set of books as a Christmas gift for competence leads within engineering group, and also a couple of other colleagues within the different departments. So far, the collection I've bought so far are the collections from the author Simon Sinek. Probably some of you know him by the famous speech at about the golden cycle, why, how, and what. But Simon has also written multiple books around definition of leadership, experience of leadership, and vision of leadership. I found them rather inspiring, such as The Leader, It's Last, Infinite Game. Those are the two choices from my side. And another one is not from Simon, it's from Will Larson, the Elegant Puzzle. It's also very interesting, and I highly recommend it because the Elegant Puzzle is a book fully focusing on engineering, leadership, and a management context, written by
Hmm.
Will Larson, who is a CTO. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read 2 out of 3 of those. Infinite Game, I definitely adored. An Elegant Puzzle, I did like, although some of it went slightly over my head. But they had in there the concept of gel teams, yeah, which I really relate to the idea that it takes a team a really long time to get on the same page and to really be operating nicely, and that you don't want to keep moving people around from team to team if you don't have to, which I thought was a pretty important point. So
Yeah.
that was great. So
But
leaders,
sometimes it's interesting. Sorry, interrupting you. We are chatting between. So sometimes is if you have a highly performing team, right? I also follow soccer, and a lot of coaches often say if you're the winning team, I don't break them. In software engineering, my experience tells me if you are at a stage of scale, you must think about to break up your highly performing teams into small teams. That's the only way to achieve sustainably growth in terms of getting your quality standards to the level you wish for, and keep your company culture at the right level, get the team spirits at the right level, and all the good practices to the bar that you wanted to keep up. Otherwise, you create a really counterbalanced team. And hence, the onboarding is very important. When people join your company, at Mobiquity, we have 1 week well-structured digital onboarding now because of COVID over the last 2 years. People join via Zoom session, and they go through learning company history, our way of working, and also getting a couple of short sessions of trainings. But what's most importantly for us, also learning their potentials, their profiles, and how we can form ideal teams around them so that they can land it safely in their first assignments when they after they join Mobiquity. Now, how would you form a team with all the new joiners? You are
Ye-
setting them up for failure, right? I would say
Absolutely.
not per se they are not a good performer. They are all subject matter experts of their domain, but allowing them to work as a team, knowing or even maybe searching for what's the right way of working within Mobiquity context, it becomes a really hard job, right?
Mm,
So you do need to have a certain good team mix so that you can achieve quality.
wow. Next audience question. Keep the questions coming. We've got one from Shantae who says, well, she seems to like the micro celebrations. They do sound like fun. Can you give some examples, ideas, tips, fun? What does a micro celebration look like? What makes a good one?
Yeah, so very good question. I think first you need to look at your agile practices, how you implement your agile framework. Doesn't matter. Let's take Scrum as example. Typically, Scrum says, well, after 2 weeks, the one sprint cycle, you will have a sprint demo or review session. But don't wait, and that's the official or formal review moment to demonstrate the feature which you got completed. But during the sprint development, according to the finish of done, you do have smaller features being finished in the meantime. So take that moment, let the partial team or the team or the even individual who has worked mostly on that feature to demo in a very informal way, right? Coffee corner, show it, and during the stand up, you say, "Hey, I accomplished yesterday this feature." Okay, right after stand up, let's spend 5 minutes to look into it, right? There are two benefits from it. First, you really build the confidence to the person because the rest of the team will pay attention to the demo, right? And
Mm,
secondly is you may be able to find um, missing parts according to the definition of done. Maybe the person forgot to implement, but that's the moment you can suggest, and it becomes less intrusive instead of rejecting a ticket in a very cold way, moving back to not done, right? So it's a gesture you can do and easy to implement. No customer, no one, no boss would walk you saying, "Why would you do a micro demo?" They will be even happy to see it.
mm,
Now, if you think
mm,
that way, there are two benefits leads to that practice. First, encourage your team to think even smaller scope in the next refinement session. They want to celebrate more. So they will start to really break down user stories in a very efficient manner so they can finish according to the finishing down. Now, second thing is about you really help to build this practice also towards your stakeholders and easy the
mm,
whole stress before sprint demo, right? Is people have seen that when you reach to the sprint demo, they just need to check the remaining part. As long as
mm,
you execute according to the definition done and ready, right? And there's a hidden factor. You encourage uh, um, introvert people to speak up and to train their presentation skill. They kind of you don't set them up for failure, right? So they are comfortable to talk about their work.
mm,
Why not then?
mm. So micro celebration is about is very much on the work, in the work. It's about celebrating the work as it happens and saying, "I see what you've done." It's not
Yes,
necessarily about party poppers and special songs. It's about
correct.
looking at the work and celebrating the work for what it is, which is
Uh,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, next question from Yuan, I think. Have you ever had any conflicts or maybe just confusion between being yourself and being a leader? That's an interesting question.
That's a very interesting question. Very deep.
Yeah.
Conflicts. Well, I think um, first of all, is definition of conflicts or confusion. Um, that's the difference why we call leader instead of manager. Because it's just a title and responsibility, I would say. Doesn't make you act differently when you are leader, and we are not a leader. Um, what does it mean is if you know the context of your job, of your engineers, you think in their way instead of thinking your own way. And your leadership activities plans would be tailor-made naturally towards their needs instead of your needs. Leaders is appear to facilitate them, not themselves, but their team
Mm,
members. So if you see there's a certain hierarchical separation between yourself and your job versus others, I think there's a moment for reflection always. And if I
mm,
have had such moment, certainly I had. It's at a very early beginning when I was asked to take the lead role. It's the experience before at joining Mobiquity, and you do get conflicts because you think suddenly at that moment you are over someone else, which is not. It's just your job
mm,
title, right? What
yeah.
does it mean? Anything else you do? So,
Yeah.
and being leader, you just facilitating. So you do need to think about it. And one thing is very important: daily self-reflection moments. What I do is, well, today you jeopardize my time. But that's okay. It's a fun chat. Usually, usually I take a little bit time around 7 or 7.5, just to do a very quick self-reflection moment of the day and what I've done.
Wow.
It's quick. If you start building these habits, then every day will be just cost you 5 minutes or 10. Um, and I do make mistakes along the way. That's what I'm saying. I gotta
Mm,
encourage to learn from my mistakes, and the people will point out my mistakes, no matter which role they in and which level they act at Mobility.
yeah.
It's not about like suddenly it becomes very chaotic and everyone finger pointing each other. No, it's about giving them the room that they feel safe, they can speak up. If
Mm,
they see something is not right coming from my side, it's coming from my peers, my team members, people I lead directly, and yet nothing would be. My camera is a little bit blurry. Sorry.
mm,
Nothing would be linked to judgment calls or personal conflicts or whatever. Right?
mm.
We are talking about content-driven discussions, and also help me to grow. So I hope I answered the question. Maybe it's
It's a
vague, but I think you do need to. Even you are just a team member of one person, think in that position when you are planning
mm.
or taking actions for whatever. So your mission is helping them to grow.
I think there's something very powerful in there, which is if you conceptualize your job as a manager or as a leader to simply be a person who performs a function, which is I facilitate, I organize, I enable, right? Um, Rather than to be someone who is somehow in charge, superior on top. It's much easier for the leader, right,
Yes.
to just be, oh, my job is to make sure that this is organized. My job is to make sure people understand this. Then you can do it, and it actually feels less pressure. So I think that's a really fantastic point.
And also, it's
We've got
good for your health, by the way.
yeah, actually,
When
yeah,
you when
actually less
you
stressful.
your body reacts in a different way. When you see someone is accomplishing certain objectives, you also feel accomplished as a
Oh,
witness,
wow.
right? So,
Fantastic.
and certainly, and it does not necessarily mean your name needs to be mentioned somewhere else, but over time you will build this. Why would you think parents feel proud of their children's
Mm,
achievement, right? Because that's
yeah.
the natural body emits the positive chemical to activate your motivation.
Okay, last question, and then we need to wrap up. So the top, it's a quick one. Okay, this is like a rapid fire. Okay, here we go. Which is, can you give us the top 3 things from your experience that have shaped the way you think about engaging and retaining talent as VP of engineering? So, what are the top 3 things that the lessons you've learned, I suppose?
Yeah, I think we've touched a lot of topics around those subjects already. If I may quickly summarize, first is strong leadership, right? Really choose the right leader to lead the people, have the good selection processes, etc. I
Mm,
highly recommend the companies to see at your existing employees first when you wanted to expand your leadership group instead of hiring from outside, but first try to promote within, right? Because
mm,
certainly there will be people have a skill or even not having skill have an ambition to, but always have the right process and right mindset when you choose people, not because that's your friends or family, right? It's about really the person can do the job. And
mm,
definition of leader does not necessarily mean top performer. You cannot link directly to each other, but often they are because the top performer go beyond and above. The point is sometimes top performers do their job right, but they are not leadership material. Will they be a good leader? Yes, but then you need to establish a well-established a training programs, coaching to help them. And some people may not have a drive, and also don't enforce them to take leadership role. Yet they are top performer, right? So
mm,
don't link these to each other. Of course, you need a certain level of seniority to take the lead, because the experience also counts for certain solution resolution, resolution moment. Second thing I think is basically trust and transparency, as we talk about
mhm,
already a lot. So I'm not going to repeat. And thirdly, is a perspective, right? And these days, as we talk about, attrition is high, and people change job often. Besides of salary offering a job title, those are the 2 factors will always, by definition, have their salient value
mm,
per any job nature. But what it doesn't have the same value is a career progression in terms of satisfaction about what they get versus their plan. So creating right perspective, clear roadmap for your department, and clear career goals for each of them. It's very easy to say, and a lot of companies say, yeah, we have career goals. But look at how you measure, right? And look
mhm,
at how you define them and how you measure in a smaller granularity, in the sense of, do people feel, does each individual agree with those goals? Does it match to your business goals? How you can highly attach, how you continuously refine. That's one part, right? And also managing the expectation right. Sometimes you do need certain group to do the job because that's a part of the job. Then manage it, be transparent, right? But that's
mm.
also the skill comes when you manage and create a proper perspective. And most importantly, roadmap and the vision needs to be clear.
My goodness, that was some high density, high powered stuff. I hope that people got as much out of it as I did. Um, we have to say that that's all we've got time for tonight. And a huge thank you, Yuka. I think it was really, really educational. You're getting a lot of thumbs up. Oh, lots of thumbs. I think that's
Thank you.
great.
Pleasure is mine.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody who joined as well, for coming along, asking some great questions and bringing some rather cool buzz on the chat. That was really nice. And we have to call it a wrap there. So thanks for joining us this evening. After the webinar closes, you'll see a pop-up where you can book a call with us to find out more about OfferZen and find out how we can help you get your next tech talent. Our next Untold Stories event is already on the horizon. You're here, so you're going to be the first to know about it. 31st of March, we are going to have Ozgun Gungor, who's VP of Engineering at Katawiki, as our speaker. And he's going to be talking about developing tech talent with developer growth frameworks, which kind of follows on quite nicely from what Jieke was saying, I think, right? He was saying you need to have that good pathway. Well, that's what Ozgun's going to be talking about. So that's fantastic. If you want to hear from Jieke, you want to get answers to questions that we didn't cover tonight, you should keep an eye out for an upcoming blog post, because we're going to try and capture this and a bit more of Jike's wisdom in a blog post soon. So keep an eye open for that. And that's it, I think. That's us done for this evening. So thanks again, Jieke. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. And before closing, thanks a lot for the time, and it's a great chat, Philip. I do want to emphasize it's an important topic an aspect to keep in mind on your day-to-day job, no matter if you are a leader or just a team member within your team or your company. I left my LinkedIn link in the chat. Feel free to connect with me if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.